Together for 25 years on the anchor desk together, and we would take our breaks together. And we both considered ourselves pretty healthy, and we thought we'd live a long life together. And we used to say that, you know, this isn't a coal mine. We could work here a long time, and I don't know how I'm going to get on without her.
She was always happy to see everybody every day, coming in saying hello, asking how your day was going. She was just such a warm heart in the newsroom. You know, when you had a difficult day in the newsroom, which happened from time to time, she almost seemed to be that brightening moment that you needed to get through the rest of the day or to get through that tough moment. And now we think of her and hopefully get through those moments again.
And I'm going to miss those days where if you needed to talk to somebody, she was there. She knew what to say. Her and I had a really great connection because we were both very close to our dads. She met my dad, and we were both very close to our dads, so we had that connection. And Dennis said to me that she thought of me as a second daughter, and I thought of her as a second mom.
Denise and I felt okay with getting older. We knew a lot. And I respected Denise a lot because she really took really good care of herself. And we talked about that a lot, about, you know, taking care of ourselves and exercising and eating right. And she was very complimentary about that. But I'm definitely going to miss that she was wise. You know, she gave good advice. And I'm really going to miss that.
My last conversation with Denise was about our families, which is fitting, I guess, because she always put family first. And I remember my daughter was born, she said, "You're not going to have a job like this one." And we used to always talk about our kids. And the last time I saw her, the night before, she was talking about how happy she was that Catherine had been home for Thanksgiving and they were going to see each other again over the holidays. And one of the last things she said to me was to give my daughter a hug for her.
My favorite thing about her was when she would walk into the newsroom and she would greet everyone by name. And I feel there's times where we don't do that, or that tradition has kind of fallen by the wayside, or she'd say goodbye to everyone by name. And just the fact that she did it and she acknowledged you and she would look at you and say, "Good morning, Rebecca," or "Good afternoon," or "Have a good night, Rebecca," was so powerful. And she did it with such grace, and always. She was, I mean, ever since I saw her, she was like Princess Diana, like she just was. And even looking at pictures of her now or hearing her voice, she's just even more magical.
I loved watching her watch stories because everyone at home is watching that story, but she's in the studio watching as well. And whether it was an emotional, sad story or a happy story, or no matter what it was, she was invested. And you could always look over and see the look in her eyes, and if it was emotional, she would get a little teary, or if it was happy, I'd hear her in the studio say, "Oh my gosh, that's so wonderful." And it's amazing. It was amazing to watch her connect that way, because you think sometimes that oh, the anchors don't really care about the stories that they're watching. That's not the case. They do care, and you could really see it from this perspective in the control room.
Whenever I did a live shot, and she would get a kick out of it, whether, you know, for whatever the crazy reason would be, backyard barbecue, or she'd send me an email, "Joe, I just had to tell you, loved it, you're killing it, keep up," you know, and coming, you know, and I mean, I should be her mentor, but I'm listening to her, and that feedback was always so valuable and important to me, to get somebody who really knows what she's doing to give you that kind of a compliment.
I started here in 2014 as a weekend reporter, and I remember coming into the newsroom, and she was one of the first people to say hello to me. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the Denise D'Ascenzo, this legend, this icon in this state, and I couldn't believe she was taking time out to talk to me. But I think that's who she was. She made time for everyone, and she just made everyone feel so incredibly special.
You know, Friday, we had a lot of breaking news, and she stayed late that night. She came over to us, and she just wished us a good weekend. And, you know, the last conversation I had with her was just such a nice one, and she had such nice things to say. And I really appreciate that instead of just walking out like some people would, you know, just leaving, waving goodbye. She came over and had a conversation with us before she left and had some really nice things to say, and it really spoke volumes about her in general.
What she would want is for everybody to go out and be the best person they can be, to be kind, and to do everything with integrity, honesty, and kindness.
That was her advice, is to, you know, remember where you came from, treat everyone with kindness, and first and foremost, you know, your family comes first.
She was just so calming and so encouraging, and would always say afterwards, you know, that was great, that was so interesting. I don't know if she meant it or not, or she was just humoring me, but she was always so positive and so encouraging. And what I think struck me was, it wasn't just that she was doing that because I was so young or because I was so green, or maybe she could tell I was nervous.
I want you to know that Denise always said, we will get through this together. And even in her absence, her spiritualness will be with us forever. And she is looking down right now saying, you got to keep going.
Many of us in the newsroom have stories about how she would pull us aside, say something nice to us, encourage us. She believed in us, send us an email. And so many of us share those similar stories. Her words carried weight. When she talked, we listened, and she used those words to be kind and encouraging, and there was really no better role model and mentor to be able to learn from.
What people may not realize about Denise is she was actually nicer in person than she portrayed herself on camera. That's difficult to believe, but it was true. Whenever you talk to Denise, it was like you were the only person she was talking to. You were the only person in the room, and you're the only person that mattered.
I always remember there was a moment when we were covering the George H.W. Bush funeral. There was a stream going on, and there was a veteran who stood up during the funeral to salute the casket, and I know her father, she was very close to, was a veteran, so it was a very touching moment. She teared up in the commercial break, because it's just very rare to see, you know, usually we're telling the news, but to see her impacted by the news and just have just a very human moment like that was just always stood out to me.
Watching her for so long before I worked here, and just seeing her as such an icon and such a legend, and then meeting her and her being the person that you actually see on TV, and just being this warm-hearted, kindest person, just made it really special to come to work and see her.
I enjoyed watching Denise D'Ascenzo stories. Everything she did I watched, and I always talked to her about it afterwards. I don't call them packages. It's an injustice to call Denise D'Ascenzo's work in packages. Her work is stories. They bring you to a higher place. They touch your soul. And for the 3 to 4 minutes that you're watching that, you become a better person.